Damian Cros was a man the world had learned never to cross. The media called him the untouchable Shah, a ruthless in the boardroom, feared by rivals, worshipped by investors. His empire spanned continents, his fortunes soared beyond imagination, and yet, beneath the cold steel of his reputation, there was a man who carried an old wound like a scar carved into his soul. Her name was Arya. Once, she had been his everything, his wife, his confidant, his heart. But love had fractured beneath the crushing weight of his empire. Damian had chosen ambition over intimacy, power over promises, and in the wreckage of his choices, Arya had walked away. He had convinced himself he didn't need her, that the burn of whiskey and the thrill of winning would bury the ghost of her absence. But some ghosts never stayed buried. It was a Tuesday when his fortress shattered. The phone call came as he sat in his towering glass office. The city sprawled below like an empire bowing to its king. His assistant's voice quavered as she spoke. "Mr. Cros, there's a broken bar, an emergency." "It's your ex-wife." For the first time in years, Damian felt something pierce the ice around his heart. When he arrived at the private hospital, the sterile scent of antiseptic filled his lungs, but it was the sight of Arya that nearly brought him to his knees. She was pale, fragile in the bed, her dark hair spread across the pillow like ink on snow. Her eyes fluttered open, meeting his with a mixture of shock and something else you fear. "Damian," she whispered, her voice cracking like glass. He moved to her side, his iron mask slipping as he reached for her hand. "Arya, a broken bar. What happened? Who did this?" His voice was a storm barely restrained. Tears welled in her eyes, but she shook her head. "It's not about what happened to me. It's about what I should have told you long ago." His chest tightened, confusion flickering into dread. "What do you mean?" Her lips trembled as she forced the words out. "You have a son, Damian." "Our son." The world stopped. For a man who had faced hostile takeovers, billion-dollar losses, and betrayals sharp enough to kill, nothing had ever stripped him bare like those words. "A broken bar, son." The word was foreign on his tongue. Arya's tears spilled freely now, each drop a dagger of guilt. "I wanted to tell you, but I was scared." "You were consumed by your empire. You didn't have room for me, let alone a child." "I thought if I stayed, he'd only grow up invisible to you, fighting for a place in your world. I couldn't let that happen." Damian's chest heaved, his carefully crafted armor cracking into shards. The thought of his child living without him, without even his name, was unbearable. He pulled back, reaching a hand through his hair, his voice hoarse. "How old?" "2," she whispered. "His name is Liam." The ground beneath Damian might as well have collapsed. 2 years. 2 years lost, stolen by his own blindness, his own choices. He felt hot tears sting his eyes, and for once he didn't hide them. He had always been the untouchable CEO, but at this moment, he was nothing more than a man broken open. "Where is he?" Damian demanded, his voice trembling. "In the safe house with my sister," Arya admitted. "But Damian, a broken bar, there's danger. That's why I ended up here. Someone found out who Liam really is. Someone wants to use him to destroy you." Fury ignited in Damian's veins, mingling with terror. "Then I'll burn the world before I let them touch him." The following days blurred into chaos. Damian left the glass towers of his empire behind and stepped into shadows he had long abandoned. He discovered the rival of the same man he had ruined years ago in business, who had vowed revenge. Now, that man sought to take Damian's greatest weakness, his son. Damian became relentless, not as a CEO, but as a father. He tracked, negotiated, threatened, and fought, his every move fueled by a desperation that stripped him of all pride. Board meetings and billion-dollar deals meant nothing compared to the thought of holding the boy he had never met. Finally, in a secluded cabin far outside the city, Damian found him. The door creaked open, and Damian's heart nearly stopped. There he was, a small, fragile, with dark curls and piercing gray eyes that mirrored his own. Liam, his son, the boy clutched a stuffed bear, looking up with innocent curiosity. Mama, Arya, weakened but determined, stepped beside Damian, her hand trembling in his. "No, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He's a broken bar. This is your father." Damian fell to his knees, the tears he had fought so hard to cage spilling freely now. His throat burned as he whispered, "I am a broken bar." He reached out slowly, terrified of frightening the boy. For a moment, Liam studied him with those wide, knowing eyes. Then, with the innocent trust only a child could give, he stepped forward and placed the bear into Damian's hands. Something inside Damian shattered completely. The empire, the power, the mask, all of it dissolved. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be truly powerless in the face of love. He pulled his son into his arms, holding him as if to protect him from the entire world. Liam nestled into his chest, and Damian's tears wet the boy's soft curls. "I'm here," he choked out. "I'll never let you go." "Never again." Arya stood back, her own tears flowing. She had feared Damian would reject them, feared he was still the man who valued empire over love. But here, before her eyes, the untouchable CEO was no more. He was just Damian, a father, a man willing to tear down his own kingdom to protect his family. In the months that followed, his empire did shake. Rivals exploited his distraction, profits dipped, and shareholders whispered. But Damian no longer cared. He spent his mornings making breakfast for Liam, his afternoons chasing laughter instead of profits, his nights sitting beside Arya, rebuilding what they had lost. And though the world continued to call him untouchable, Damian knew the truth. He had been broken, shattered by love and by the shocking truth of the son he never knew. But in that breaking, he had found something greater than power. He had found a reason to fight, not for wealth or ambition, but for the family that had become his entire world. Damian Cros had been untouchable once. Now, he was human. And for the first time, he was free.